Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Motorsports with Motorhead. I am your host, Captain Motorhead. This week, got quite a few things I want to go over. First off, do want to say that I was close. Denny Hamlin got second in the Cup race. It almost became a fuel mileage race, just as I said it would. Thank you, SVG, for spinning out so late, though. Even Denny had to say it's thanks to you spinning that Briscoe had enough fuel to make it to the end. Wouldn't have been for that, Denny probably would have won. Oh well, time to move on from that, right? One thing I want to talk about first off, before I get into all the actual motorsports talk, is going to be Lionel Racing, the company that does all the diecast for NASCAR. I'm a big fan of Lionel. I have quite a few of their cars in my collection, obviously, since they are the main people to do anything for NASCAR. Anything else is people doing custom stuff, typically using a Lionel car for a base or some sort of model that they got. But whenever I was really, really little, a lot of the cars that my dad would get me would have metal chassis, hoods that could open, rubber tires, really amazing detail on such a small little toy. And to me that's what they were when I was little, they were toys. Now I look back, it's like, oh wow, some of those really could have been collectible. But hey, oh well. At the time I had fun. But they kind of did away with the metal chassis and the rubber wheels on the small cars. Of course, the bigger cars would still have that, but not the itty bitty ones. All of a sudden, though, Lionel has announced they're going to be bringing that back. From what I read, it doesn't seem like we're going to be getting the open hood, but we are going to be getting the metal chassis and the rubber tires. As I was reading about it, I really expected to see there be a price increase for this. Imagine my shock whenever it's going to be the same price. Granted, a little bit higher than what it just was 2 years ago, but hey, that's due to the tariff charge. That's why it's going up in price, not because of the change with the chassis or the wheels. So, it's cool, but part of me also wonders, well, two things, Either A, why haven't we been doing this? Because it's not costing any more to do it if you're not charging us anymore for the cars. Or B, well, have you really been jacking up your prices that much? Or even though it has been mostly plastic and we don't have the metal chassis or the rubber tires, that you still charged us more than what you should have been? So that kind of raises a few questions there for me, as a customer. And one side of me really likes this announcement. Really excited about it, because especially since most of my collection is the 164. It's just too expensive and way too much room taken up to buy all of them in the 124. As I have a few of those on pre-order, but for the most part, it's all 164 stuff that I buy. And it's just that way I have more space for it in my collection. It allows me to get more of them. And I don't need to have a big car of each one. So it's going to be cool though. I'm going to have more that are going to have the rubber tires. It's just, I don't know, why haven't we had this going for quite a few years now? So that's all on that. I don't want to be on a soapbox too much. I still love Lionel. I think that they do a pretty good job. I see a lot of people hate on them, and I don't understand that. As far as a company, they are pretty good at what they do. Yes, prices aren't always what we would like. We've had increases in prices just at the normal grocery store, though. You can't go buy bread or milk for the same price that you could even 4 or 5 years ago. So it's not just for collectibles, it's for everything. Prices have just gone up. I don't like it. It's sadly just life, though. And from what everyone's talking about, it's never going to stop. They're just going to keep going up. So I guess we should all just get used to it at this point. So, on from there, though. Craftsman Truck Series. It was a pretty fun race. I watched it. I gotta say that I was pretty excited about Frankie Muniz being able to avoid a wreck for once. Finished in the top 20. He's the one I've been following the most this year. Um, I grew up watching him and Malcolm in the Middle. Excited to see him come back for the revival show for that. I was trying to be able to get to meet him whenever he came to Kansas, but sadly wasn't able to. So hopefully the next time they come through, I am. I followed him whenever he was going through ARCA, and he had a lot of bad luck there. He's been having a lot of bad luck throughout the Truck Series too. Typically, it's not his own fault. He's usually getting wrapped up in other people's wrecks. Sometimes, though, it's due to the track position that he has. And that I can't necessarily say is entirely on him, though. It seems like part of it's the team that he's running for. So, he's also still learning. This is his first year in truck. So I think he hasn't been doing horrible for being a first year. I know he has a lot more to learn. But it's still been exciting to watch him. So just the fact that he was able to avoid a wreck for once, finish in the top 20, I think that's really nice, and I hope to see that more from him. Would like to see him start finishing in the top 10, of course, even be able to work his way up to top 5. Would absolutely love to see him win, but I think that's a little bit further down the road for him at the moment anyway. A lot more to be able to be learned and to be able to adapt to before he gets to that point. I think the most memorable thing I have for the race, though, had to be Carson Hocevar getting black flagged due to a restart violation. Seems like he didn't really fully understand the rules on that. Corey Heim, the race leader, right before they went back to green, had some sort of issue, had to then pit. Him doing so, because he was first, kind of made it where Corey didn't know if it was supposed to be him, or sorry, Hocevar didn't know if it was supposed to be him going first or not. So he just kind of became the control car and went, which did get him black flagged and basically ruined any hopes of him winning that race, which I know some people were sad about that, others happy because they don't like to see any of these guys go down to lower ranks to try and race, whether it be Kyle Busch or Kyle Larson, and now Carson Hocevar going back down to other series. I'm all for it. I don't mind it. I actually kind of like to see it. I believe that it makes the people in the other series work that much harder because they know that they are racing with the guy from Cup or Xfinity, if it's even an Xfinity driver going down to race in a lower series. So I don't mind it at all, but I do know there's a lot of fans that just are entirely against it, think it's unfair, it doesn't make the race the right way, especially whenever these guys from higher classes are coming down and they're winning, so it's taking away chances for the other guys to win. I see that side of the argument, but at the same time, I don't know. I think it allows more fans that don't always follow all the series to be able to maybe check it out. Because I know some people that they only ever watch, whether it be Xfinity or Truck Series, Craftsman, for whenever certain drivers in it, like Kyle Busch, for instance. I know a few fans that literally don't watch trucks unless Busch is racing that weekend in truck. And hey, I get that. I don't always follow everything. If there's a certain driver in that series, though, obviously I'm going to make sure to check in like I did with ARCA. Whenever Cletus McFarlane was racing in that, I checked in on those races versus all the other ones I really didn't. So I get that. But again, I'm all for it. I like it. And especially whenever it leads to things like Kyle Busch. He has that sweep of a whole weekend that he was able to do. Kyle Larson has tried now twice, both this season. Both times coming up just one position short. The first time it was in the Truck Series, he finished second. Then he won both the Xfinity and Cup that weekend. And then he did it again, I want to say it was 2 weeks later. And again, came up short, but that time it was in the Xfinity race. And he won in the Truck Series and the Cup Series. So two attempts, two fails, both in the same season, both really close though. And again, it's a nice thing. If he would have done it, I would hopefully have the sweep on pre-order. The sweep for Kyle Busch, whether it be signed or not signed, goes for ridiculous amounts of money on secondhand sites. That's something I would love to have. That's kind of a holy grail, I consider. But it's going to be years, if ever, that I get my hands on that. So, but again, it's cool. I like it. Other than that, Lane Riggs did win. Put on a pretty good show at the end there too. Nice little burnout, little 360 action too. So always fun to see that the guys, have the good vehicle control to be able to do cool stuff at the end. Puts on a great show for the fans. I hate seeing how empty the stands are for the Trucking Xfinity Series. I would like to see that change, especially with the Xfinity Series having, in at least my opinion, some of the best racing right now out of any three of them. And I believe it's just due to how the car is set up. It's a lot more like how the Cup car was before this new gen, and I believe is the superior car. Even our Cup guys that go down and race in the Xfinity car talk about how much more fun it is, especially at certain racetracks, how it handles better. They can really feel like it'll turn whenever they need it to, so they can be able to hold their foot down on the gas more and stuff. So it seems to be more like how the Cup cars were, and I think it's allowing for some of the better racing, even with the talent that they do have, which I know to some people is a lack of talent. To others, though, it is pretty nice. You have some of the Xfinity lifers, like one of the guys I follow pretty closely, Justin Allgaier. He just won the championship last year, just racing the Daytona 500 and Cup this year. Didn't even do bad in that. Junior was very happy with the performance there. Even talked about how he would love to do another Cup race. And if he did, they kind of asked the fans who you want to see. I think for the most part, Justin Allgaier was kind of the pick of who people would want to see back in the car again for another chance. So I think that's really cool. But, sorry. Um, on to the Xfinity race. With that being said, and well, all the reason why I'm talking about this again is also Chase Elliott raced in the Xfinity race. He started on the pole. He led 22 laps in stage one. He had one of the fastest cars out on the track. He took the lead late again in the race, but due to a few late cautions and thanks to Justin Allgaier racing him pretty hard in the corner, kind of getting loose and almost getting up into him, he lost some spots. And good thing he didn't win, as he ended up getting fined afterwards. The exact part, I really didn't understand what the part was, so I'm not going to try and pretend. I'm not a mechanic. I don't always know everything about cars. My dad's more than happy to contest on that too. I was always learning, and he's the one that taught me that if you don't know something, don't act like you do. You look stupid when you do that. So I'm not going to try and pretend I understand the part that they're talking about, but they did find an issue with Chase Elliott's car after the race. Due to the fact that he's not a normal Xfinity driver, he himself did not get docked any points. They did, however, dock some owner points and fine the team. It kind of sucks to see that, but again, I'm also glad he didn't win the race now because of that. It makes me wonder, if that exact part is good for aerodynamics or weight reduction or something because of how fast his car was during that race, but again, not a mechanic, so I'm not going to try and pretend like I know that and be like, oh yeah, it's thanks to them being like that they got to be so good in the race. I don't know. The part might have nothing to do with it. It might be something kind of obscure that has really no major worth to the overall performance of the vehicle. So, don't know. I think it's cool he raced in it. Again, it pressures other drivers to do better. Connor Zilisch racing up there with Chase was really cool to see, as he is an up-and-coming driver. As Dale Jr. said, he's going to be around for quite a while and a name to know. I honestly believe it. He won earlier this year on a road course. Just won this past weekend with Dale Earnhardt Jr. as his crew chief. First time Dale Jr. has ever done that. And it turns up as a win. Really cool. Some things on him being the crew chief as well, though. Kyle Busch was seen in an interview before the race on Sunday, kind of talking, or actually I think it was before practice, sorry. And he was asked what he thought, what his views were about Dale Jr. getting to do that. And at the moment, he said, well, it's basically just being a warm body up on a chair. I kind of get what he was going with that. Even Dale Jr. in a couple interviews leading up to the race was playing it real nonchalant, oh, the team already knows what they're doing. I'm just going to be helping out. Even without me, they'd be fine type of thing. So with him playing it off like that, I definitely get what Kyle Busch was saying with it. And I'm not mad at him. I saw a lot of other fans tearing him apart about it though. Oh, you would think he would understand as a used to be a team owner and bringing his kid up in the racing and this and that, how important it is to be a crew chief. And I don't think he was trying to discount the importance of a crew chief. I think that he was trying to say that Dale Jr. himself might not be contributing that much to it because of the fact that the team already knew what they were doing. It's not exactly how he said it, but even whenever I go and listen to it, it's kind of how it seems to me. He's not really trying to say it's not like no big deal at all. It's just they don't necessarily need him up there. Now, he did say in another interview later on in the weekend that he was wrong after watching the race, seeing what Dale Jr. had to say over the radio to Connor, kind of listening in on all that, how he was really coaching him. Jr. was more than just a warm body in a seat. He was truly helping and coaching Connor Zilisch to the finish line. And I even got to listen to a few snippets of it. It was really cool to listen to, especially since I have listened to some of the stuff from Dale Jr.'s radio whenever I would have been younger, and how his spotters talked to him and coached him through some things. So just him learning from all of his years and being able to now help another driver who's going to be up and coming was just a really neat moment. I love to see more of that. I don't know if we'll get to. He was just a fill-in. It's not like they're planning on that being a normal thing. But I think it'd be really cool for the fans to see him fill in that spot a few more times, or even, for one season here and there, trade off between the guys, or even go with one car for the whole year and be a crew chief. I would be more than happy to see any of that, but I don't know if he would have the time with how involved he is with the sport overall and all the other teams that or the team that he does run with the different drivers under that banner. So, time-wise and for his life, I don't know if it would work, but it would just be kind of a cool thing to see. I love that Zilisch won for Dale Jr.'s first time ever being a crew chief. Just adds to it. I did go ahead and I pre-ordered the dual-signed 124 version of the win. So it's going to have both Connor Zilisch and Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s signature on it. Just because it's really cool. I like to get wins that are kind of a big moment, whether it be for the sport overall or for the driver itself. And I feel like for this one, it's kind of both, because it's Connor Zilisch's first win on an oval, even though, as a lot of people like to point out, it's a triangle. Pocono is not really an oval, it's a triangle. I agree with what Denny Hamlin had to say in his podcast, though, that you don't turn right, it's all just left-hand turns. So yes, it's still an oval in their mind for a racer mindset. So it is his first oval win, and it's his second win of his Xfinity career, second win of the season, and again the first win for Dale Earnhardt Jr. as a crew chief. So that's exactly why I have that one on pre-order. I think it's just a lot of really cool things kind of wrapped up into one. Other than that, can't really say I have much more to go. There was some early cautions in the race due to one spin and then one engine blown. We've had a lot of engines blown this year, whether it be in Xfinity or Cup. I don't exactly know what's going on there. As I mentioned just even earlier, I'm not a mechanic, and I know that there's been a lot of different issues that have caused the problems for the different teams, just kind of depending on if it's a part issue or if it was a driver issue even. Just different things that happen, but it's still kind of weird to see that and the wheels that keep falling off. I feel like we're just seeing more of that in the most recent years than what we used to, and I know people love to say it's because of the single lug nut on the Cup cars. Well, Xfinity's had quite a few wheels come off as well. I know not as many, but still quite a few, so I'm not going to entirely say it's because of the lug nut that it's coming off. But again, that does it for Xfinity. Congratulations to Connor. I hope to see more wins out of him. I think that we will. He is going to be racing in Cup this coming up weekend, so that's going to be nice to see him back in Cup. looks like it's going to be a very, very nice looking ride as well for him. So it's nice to see. And whenever he does go full time in Cup, I'm excited about that. I hope they don't do it right away and rush it, but I would like to see them let him go up fully sooner rather than later. Um, Kind of as a transition here, I'll talk about both him and I'll talk about Shane Van Gisbergen, SVG. Denny Hamlin in his podcast this past week was talking about, how does he feel about Connor Zilisch being ready for Cup, and is he more ready than SVG was ready? And to that, it's not exactly an easy answer. And I agree with a lot of what Denny had to say on it. Connor Zilisch seems to have the oval already down pretty well. He's doing pretty good in the Xfinity car. Even whenever he's been in the Cup car a few times this year, he's shown that he can be able to hold his own. Still a lot to learn, though. But hey, same with Shane Van Gisbergen. He's been learning a lot. He did rather well in the Xfinity Series last year. Had a couple of wins, most of which, though, were on road courses. His win this year in Cup, on a road course. In fact, that means both of his wins for Cup are from road courses. And both were the first race of that type at that location. And in the rain. So, SVG in the rain on road courses in NASCAR, kind of undefeated. But hey, that's cool. But really, is he prepared? And is Connor more prepared? Kyle thinks maybe Connor Zilisch seems a little bit more prepared. Or sorry, not Kyle. Denny. Denny thinks. And again, I can agree with that, especially seeing him race. And it's nothing against Shane Van Gisbergen. He grew up overseas, and he was racing a completely different type of car. And I don't wonder if, part of it's just Connor Zilisch and him growing up over here and being able to see the racing and be more a part of it growing up. I wonder how much of that contributes. Also, too, his mentors. I do wonder that. We've seen a big improvement in Connor even just this year. So how much of that is him thanks to being on Dale Jr.'s team or racing even for Trackhouse, learning potentially from Shane even. So there's a lot to that, and I think both drivers are more than capable and more than deserving of being in Cup. Again, I think Zilisch needs to wait just a little bit longer, just because he's doing pretty well in Xfinity. I think he still has a little bit more to learn, and it's a good chance for him. Plus, it gives me another person to cheer for in the Xfinity Series. And if they keep bringing more and more guys to Cup, I'm going to have more and more guys to make sure I'm following every week, just for one series. And I like that I'm following guys from different series right now. So that might be slightly selfish of a reason that I don't want him to go to Cup right away. But hey, I'm going to go ahead and say it and throw it out there. So, but I do think that both of them are more than deserving. I understand why it's been a big conversation, though, especially with Shane Van Gisbergen and being able to now race for a championship after being so low in points. I get it. It's a road course. He won on a road course. Everyone's like, well, that's kind of to be expected. Does he deserve this? It's a win. Does it upset me a little bit? Yeah, it sucks because I feel like they should change the point system, but a win's a win right now, and he has a win in the Cup Series, 2 wins now. So I think he's very deserving. He's a champion in a completely different series. So there's that too. And I believe there's a lot of other guys out there right now that deserve a chance to race in Cup or Xfinity that probably won't get the chance, either due to their current restrictions of what they're racing in. As I mentioned in my last podcast, I would love to see them get Max Verstappen in an Xfinity car or Cup car for a weekend. If they do Xfinity, I'd love to see them get Kyle Larson in on the same weekend so we can finally get those two racing on the same track. Things like that I think would be super, super cool. But again, as I mentioned last year, fever dream. Don't think it's going to happen. If it does, I'll be the first to admit that I'll be shocked. Alrighty. So the Cup race itself. I want to go ahead and talk about that entirely. As I mentioned, yes, I was close. Then he got second. Chase Briscoe won the race. SVG spun out late. Denny won stage 1. He started on the pole. I was at work, wasn't able to follow the race entirely at the time. I did watch all of the recaps of it and everything, so I did see it entirely now. Um, Glad I watched it all. It's crazy to me how close I was to calling it right. Um, Denny talked about saving fuel. Before the late caution with SVG spinning, he was told that Chase Briscoe was multiple laps short of being able to make it. If I remember correctly, I think it was 5 or 6 laps short. And Denny even talked about, math in his head. Oh, that's a little too short to even be able to fuel save that. So he kind of thought, as long as he didn't run out of fuel himself, he'd be able to win it. But then again, SVG spun out, caused a late caution. Due to them going under caution speeds, it did allow Chase Briscoe to save enough fuel to then make it to the end. So that part kind of sucks, just because I would have liked to see Denny win. One thing I did not know whenever I picked him to win was that his first win did come at Pocono on 6/11. His kid was born on 6/11, and then they went to Pocono the week after that. I think it just would have been a cool little cherry on top if he would have won it. He even talked about in his podcast how he would just feels like he would be on a whole different level. Granted, he's still on a great level, but I get what he was saying. He was on top of the world, but that would have just skyrocketed it even more. And I get that. You won a race, you took a week off because your wife had a baby, which is your first boy, and then boom, you come back and you get to win a race. Like, that would have been really cool. And that's one of the reasons why I picked him too, though, is just because of the fact that he was coming off of having a week off. I know he's done well at Pocono before. Was really hoping he'd finally get to be able to be that 8-time winner and have it stick, as he did talk about. He is an 8-time winner in his mind, but he did get disqualified after winning there for that 8th time. So in the record books, it only shows a 7. I would like for the record books to show 8 for him. It'd just be really cool. I respect Denny, as I've said before. I know I don't consider myself a true fan of Denny's. I'm not rooting for him on the track all the time, but I am a fan, and I would like to see him achieve greatness. I would like to see him be a champion. I think that it would be a nice thing for him to be able to end his career on, whether it be this year with how well he's been doing, and 3 wins is great, and he's been up front most of the time. Hell, with him finishing first and then at Michigan, even though he missed a week, and finished second at Pocono for this crazy in-season challenge that they're doing. He was a first seed. So I think that's really cool. Also kind of different. I don't really like how they did the seeding. I don't remember all the exact bracket spots. I still got to fill mine out before the race. I do know they put Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson in the same bracket for the first race. I feel like that should have been a later matchup. Especially, there being, Bell versus Larson. They respect each other, but they do race each other hard. And they race each other good. They put on a great show whenever they're racing each other. And I for one, am all for it, whether it be dirt racing or cup racing. They are a lot of fun to watch whenever they're side by side on that track. So I hope for this one race that the both of them get to be in it, that some good racing between the two of them even, that it's close racing. I know TNT is going to be pushing hard on this, really wanting to follow the different brackets and who's versus who. So this one race is going to be really, Larson versus Bell. And, I'm hopefully, obviously pulling for Larson, but I also get that with the way how this stuff works out, your driver has one bad race, that's it, they're done. So we'll see how this in-season challenge goes. I will, again, make sure to fill out my bracket, and then I will kind of share what that is, what my picks are, how I do every week. So I'll make sure to follow up on all that. I think it's a cool thing that they're doing. The commercial for it to announce it was really entertaining. All the drivers they had in there, the banter between a few of them. I miss things like that. I wish NASCAR drivers got to have more fun with things like that. And it just kind of brings some life to the drivers.
especially Chase Elliott being part of it. Uh, him being one of the Hendrick boys, I see a lot of people complain about, how is this guy the most popular driver when he has no personality? And hey, I agree entirely. But my favorite driver, Kyle Larson, doesn't have much more. I think that both Byron and Bowman, they're the two strong points on Hendrick when it comes to personality. You look at other teams, you got ones like Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, of course, Denny Hamlin, uh, Brad Keselowski, some major players that have great personalities. I miss Kevin Harvick a little bit being on the racetrack because of his personality. Wasn't really a big Kevin Harvick fan personally, but again, I respected him. And the personality that he brought to the track was a lot of fun. Him being up in the booth has been cool though too, and I think he's added some good personality there, much needed, if I may add. But yeah, it's cool. Sorry, it's cool. So on from that, 2311 and their brake issues. Bubba Wallace was one of the ones. He had a right front go down. First, I didn't really know, was it him overdriving it? Did it go down or what? Watching the replay, you kind of see it looks like something blew first. Turns out it was his brakes. They went out on him. And that's actually what ended up causing him to hit the wall. And then he talked about the fact that all three of the 2311 cars had the same issue. So hopefully they figure that out going forward. Because you don't want to have brake issues. For one, we see how bad that's turned out before. It's ruined whenever Christopher Bell was even in the championship race. That ruined it for him. He had his brakes blow. So that's something the 2311 needs to get on top of now, especially coming up to the playoffs. We only got a few more races before we start, and they've been talking about having issues with it before. So it was a little scary to see, especially since it was on all three cars. It tells you it wasn't just how the one car was set up, because even though they're all on the same team, and I know that they don't put out the statistics, they don't show you all the numbers they're using for their cars, the air pressure and all that, because it's all team secrets. But just because you're on the same team, you're not on the same team. There's multiple teams on the same team. You're not sharing all that info. So there's no way all three of those cars were set up the same way. And there's no way all three of those drivers were driving those cars the same way to cause those brakes to fail. So that was obviously a parts issue. So Denny was talking on his podcast, they really got to look into that, figure it out. And I hope they do. Especially with everything else going on for that team, the lawsuit with NASCAR. They don't need any more issues added onto their plate right now. So hopefully after this race they'll get that figured out. They'll be able to move on, and it won't be such a big deal going forward. So we'll kind of have to wait and see on that. Obviously, because I don't think they're going to give us an update on that throughout the week. Like, oh, hey, we changed brake manufacturers or something. We'll have to see if there's any news on that as the weeks come. If they mention it during any interviews, I'll try and keep my ears open. If they do interview any of the crew chiefs or Denny himself talks about it on his podcast again, I'll try to make sure, just keep my ears out and pick up on any of that. But I'm not going to promise to hear anything because, I can't see the future. I don't have a crystal ball. Even though a buddy of mine was joking about that. And he was like, man, I was listening to that race. I knew how you called it. He goes, I really thought that you somehow just saw the future. He's like, nah, man, I can't see the future. So I can just look at things and I can just know that, all right, this driver does good at this track, or this team is really well here. When it comes to Kansas, I know I could probably pick anyone from a Toyota, or I could be able to pick Kyle Larson. It's a toss-up. Which one's going to win? Right now in the next gen, it's literally one or the other. It's either Kyle Larson or it's a Toyota. So when you look at certain tracks right now, it's kind of the same thing. And it's a bit of a toss-up, but even for this coming up weekend, us going to Echo Park, Atlanta Speedway, I believe that I have two different people that could win. I think Christopher Bell could be a potential win. The one I want to say is going to win, though, is going to be William Byron. He has already won there before twice. once in 2022, once in 2023. Christopher Bell just won earlier this year whenever we went to Atlanta for the first time, back when it was still called Atlanta. Now it's Echo Park. And he's strong there. So I think either one of them would be a good pick. The other one, though, that I believe could do well, Kyle Larson. I'm not even going to pick him. My pick really is going to be William Byron. But I believe any three of them could do it. But I'm going to be pulling for William Byron this weekend. His time's coming. He won the Daytona 500. A lot of people say, lucky win. I get it. He's been dominating in a few other races this year. Couldn't capitalize at the end, though. Even led the most races in 2 separate races. So I believe that his time's coming again. I would like to see him back in victory lane. He is going to be in the same scheme that he was in for the Daytona 500, which is that beautiful, flaming 24. I think they did real well with the throwback to Jeff Gordon, but also be able to keep it slightly different so that way it is William Byron's identity as well. And it's just real nice. So I'm all for it. Would like to see them continue it, at least here and there, as they have been. I know some people are tired of the flame scheme by now. It's been done since the early 2000s, but I'm one that thinks that we can be able to keep a few schemes in NASCAR that kind of look the same to be able to have that identity for the sport. Anyone sees that flame car, you typically know exactly who the driver is, what the sport is, even if you weren't a big fan. Same with the number 3 for the Intimidator or the number 8 for Dale Earnhardt Jr. Most people, when you see any one of those cars, you know that's NASCAR. You might even know it's an Earnhardt car. So I think that the identity thing there is nice. So I'm excited for him to be in that too. I think it's going to be a good, fun race. And just hoping I finally get to see Hendrick win since I've been doing this podcast. I'm actually getting to do it every week now. I was hoping to be able to be on here right after Larson won at Kansas. I was excited. Ecstatic. But technical difficulties. Lots to learn, still learning. As I have been doing, thank you all for listening. As we round the 40-minute mark almost for this podcast. Sometimes I feel like I'm just rambling on about things, but I've also had some good feedback from some of you. So just truly thank you. Shout out to all y'all that truly listen. And I do hope to keep bringing you some good content. I am trying to make sure to get more in-depth with different topics, but I also feel like I'm still getting used to the timing. Being able to get it all done within an hour, but not rushing myself and not missing out on topics. There's been a few times already in my other 2 podcasts where after it's done, I'm like, oh man, I meant to talk about this. And I look at it, I'm like, well, I really didn't have much time though. I'm trying to keep this just under an hour, and each time I've been hitting right about that hour mark. But again, just thank you. Please keep the comments coming. Please, reach out to me, whether it be through my phone. We're getting everything posted on YouTube soon, so please reach out to me on there too. Again, I am on Twitter. It's going to be CPT_Motorhead for my @. And I do post on there every time that I am putting up a new episode. Also, of course, reposting a lot of stuff from NASCAR itself, commenting on different things, liking different posts. So if you do want to try and keep up with me on there, please feel free. And you will see my secondary account on there too, because as it's the account that does repost any of my Captain Motorhead stuff, and that's my Taz Fed account. So just please, you can be able to add either one of those. I promise it's all family friendly, and it's just to have fun and be able to keep in touch with everybody. I've been trying to make some friends on there, be able to meet some other people that are into the racing scene, to be able to try and build up more of a community with this. So yeah, just thank you to everyone just so much. And we're just going to keep this going. I do want to talk about IndyCar. Great race at Road America. Crazy race at Road America. Lots took place. I tried to keep track of most of it. I wrote down quite a bit. Lap 1, turn 4. Hectic start. Cars were beating and banging, and it's IndyCar. You don't think you'd see that very often, but they were. They were going wheel to wheel. A few of them were shoving each other off into the grass. You had David. He spun in the sand on turn 4. Did bring out the caution. Right about the same time that happened, Pillow and Power, they were having a great battle. Side by side, one turn, one would be ahead of the other. Next turn, the other one would kind of come back on him. Love to see that. Alex Palou doing really well this year. He has won the most races of the season. In fact, it's just him and one other driver that have won all of the races, both of which are Honda drivers. So currently, Honda knows what they're doing when it comes to IndyCar. But anyway, other than that, you had, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You had 6 cautions of the day from cars spinning out for the most part. Quite a few ended up in the sand trap. There was one who went side by side with another car and ended up kind of getting forced off the track, hit the wall on the outside, the concrete wall barrier. It actually broke his wheel, and from there he just went forward onto the tire barrier. Didn't hit it too hard. Everyone that did have an accident walked away A-okay for the day. But just a lot of craziness. I really enjoyed the race. I went ahead and I watched the full race recap on YouTube instead of watching just the highlights. Just because of the fact it was Road America, and I wish NASCAR still raced at Road America, and I'm glad IndyCar is still there. So that's why I wanted to make sure I checked out the whole thing. As I did just mention, Alex Palou did win. That is his 6th win of the season. The only other one to win this year is Kirkwood. He has won 3. Wow. We are halfway through the entirety of the season now, and you've had only 2 drivers win. Of course, Alex Palou, with as many wins as he has, he is your points leader. So I think it's cool. He also won the Indianapolis 500 this year. He won the first race of the season. This guy's on a roll. I see him winning the championship again this year. He's the defending champion as well, so I think it's going to be a 2 in a row for him. I kind of see him as being the Max Verstappen of IndyCar right now. Max wins quite a few of the races over in F1, wins more than he loses, and that's kind of how I see Alex Palou right now. He's just on fire. Again, Honda as a total for for IndyCar seems to have it pretty well put together on what they're doing. And I would like to see it continue on for him. Been some really good racing this year. I know part of the Indy 500, thanks to the rain and everything, was kind of a crapshoot, but I think Indy's put together a pretty good season so far, and it's kind of gotten me back into it. First time in a while. I kind of followed it a little bit last year with Kyle Larson going to be doing the double, so as it was meant to do, it brought more attention to another sport. So any of those that do hate on Kyle Larson trying to do the double, I feel like it did exactly what it was meant to do. A lot of people checked it out, and it brought a few people to become new fans, or I guess brought some fans back who kind of checked out for a while there. So however it is, however you see it, I do believe that it was a good thing, and it re-sparked my interest, especially because I followed it more last year, and then I've been following it quite a bit this year, and I was following it even before I decided to do this podcast this year. So I like IndyCar. I don't mind F1, but I do like IndyCar. I wish they came to Kansas Speedway. I would love to be able to see a race in person. If I ever do get to go to an IndyCar race, I would hope that I can make it the Indianapolis 500, just because I feel like that is the one to go to when it comes to Indy. But phenomenal race at Road America for them. I'm truly happy I checked it out. If you've not seen it yet, go check it out on YouTube. Like I said, you can watch the full race on there, or just check out the highlights even. It's still worth it. I think the highlights were almost 30 minutes long with everything that happened during the race whenever I saw it pop up. So you'll see quite a bit of it if you just even check that out. Alright, last thing I want to talk about before I start to wrap things up this episode. Now, I don't always watch off-road racing, and I like rally stuff. Whenever Ken Block was alive, I followed that a little bit more, but that was mostly due to him and my interest in what he was doing and how he could handle a car. It was actually kind of cool. My grandparents didn't know it, but they were in Ireland at the same time as him whenever he was doing a rally there. I was a huge fan of Ken Block. I wish that he was still around. The way how he could handle a car was just phenomenal. But I saw something on Twitter that sparked my interest. It was this Pro 2 and Pro 4 championship off road trucks. Both of the trucks were like 20 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. Final lap, and these guys are going at it hard. I honestly don't know these drivers' names, so please, bear with me on it. I did watch the replay of the race. I tried looking up more of it because it's not something I'm very well versed in. I couldn't tell what exactly was from this race and what was from a different race. It seemed like it took place about the same time, so I didn't want to mix anyone's names up or anything. So I'm just going to go with truck descriptions here for this one. I'm going to try and get better at this for the future, though, and be able to do some more investigative work. But this is just a cool little incident. I don't really follow this racing, but here we go. It's called Championship Off-Road Racing. Again, this was the Pro 2 versus Pro 4 race. And it was actually a Pro 2 and Pro 4 truck that were involved in this. You had a blue Lucas oil truck. That was the Pro 2. And there was a black Monster Energy truck that was the Pro 4. The Monster truck was in P2. Last lap. Flew up behind the blue Lucas truck. And right as they were going into one of the turns, the Monster truck turned way early to be able to have the truck go sideways to be able to make the turn a little bit more, but they end up colliding. In doing so, they spin out together. Somehow, the Monster Energy truck's wheel got stuck in the hood of the Lucas truck. Like on top of it, like wedged in the hood. And they were not able to get apart for a few seconds. A safety guy is going running up towards them as they're still trying to reverse off of each other. It takes almost 15 seconds. The announcers at some point even start asking, well, hey, wait, who's in third? Who's in third? He might become a factor. Because like I said, they were 20 seconds ahead. But it's been almost 10 to 15 now that they've been trying to get unstuck. Right as the safety guy goes to run up to, I'm assuming, wave the yellow and call an end to it all, they break apart. Well, about the same exact time, third place ends up showing up. He was in an Air Force truck. And he gets all into it. They're all beating and banging on each other, all three of them for a second there. Finally, the Lucas truck gets going. The Air Force truck right behind him. Monster truck kind of fell back just a little bit. And right as they cross the finish line, Lucas truck up front, Air Force truck goes climbing up the back of him. I don't even know how to explain it. Just straight up like a monster truck. Just climb right up the back of him. End up sandwiching the Lucas truck across the finish line. They finished 1-2 that way. Absolutely ridiculously crazy finish. The announcers didn't even know what they were seeing or what to say. Phenomenal. Seeing a finish like that, it was hectic. And I think it was awesome. Kind of crazy they didn't throw the yellow or slow the rest of the field down after the two guys were basically blocking the track for almost 15 seconds. But hey, other than that little bit of detail there, I think it was a really cool thing to see. It would have been awesome to be there in person. I'm sure the fans didn't know what to think of it at first, especially with one truck being sandwiched by another truck across the finish line. It's something you would think you'd see out of the movie Cars. Just absolutely crazy. And I don't know. I'm gonna have to try and see if I can follow it more. The championship off-road racing, it might be something to check out. And it made me realize, I'm kind of missing some other things with this. I'm calling this Motorsports with Motorhead, but I've been following some NHRA, a little bit of IndyCar, mostly NASCAR, touched on F1 once. I need to try and broaden what I cover. I need to go over more motorsports. So whenever I saw this, like, you know what, that's a great opportunity. I need to find out more about this. So I'm going to try and keep that going. I want to make sure to talk about other series, other sports inside of the motorsports header, just to be able to learn more and connect with more fans even. I really want to get out and then experience some of the dirt tracks around here again and be able to start talking about some of that too, especially for anyone local that's listening that likes to go out to those, to be able to connect and see like, oh, hey, talking about local news almost. So I really want to start being able to get into some of that more And going forward, I do promise to try and look into other series as well, and not just keep touching on the same stuff. But of course, I will probably be talking about NASCAR every week. I'm still planning on putting out a podcast again next Friday, a week from today. So, we're just going to keep it going. Again, as I just mentioned a little bit earlier, thank you to everyone that listens. Wouldn't be able to do this without you, and I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you. There's quite a few of you that kind of pushed me to make sure that I even do this, and that I've been sticking with it. So, again, just thank you to all y'all. I very much appreciate it, and any feedback is more than welcome. Y'all have been amazing. But I think that's going to go ahead and do it for me this week. I did keep it under the hour. In fact, it's going to be, I think, the shortest one yet, so yay. I don't want to bore you guys. I could go into more detail. I could get into every incident. Maybe I will start to at some point, but not for right now. I guess one last thing I need to mention before we do go, as I did, Echo Park. Used to be Atlanta Speedway. Now it's Echo Park. It's going to be like that if I remember correctly. It's the next 6-7 years. They signed a contract. It's still Atlanta Speedway, guys. It is. But, for right now, it's going to be Echo. I'm sure we'll see its name change back to Atlanta as soon as this contract is up. If it doesn't, it's because they either signed an extension or they got a contract with someone else and they'll change the name to who knows. Probably not Atlanta, though. But seriously, that's it for me. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Y'all have yourself a great day, night, afternoon. What depends on whenever you listen to this. Let's go William Byron. Hopefully he can be able to pull off the win this weekend. Hoping Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell give us a great race. Let's see how this whole in-season challenge thing goes.